trapped elevators, eye patches, and broken mechanics, here are 9 inventive ways developers trolled players for piracy. Everyone loves a bit of instant karma, right? That self-righteous feeling when you see someone doing something obviously wrong who immediately gets their comeuppance. It makes you feel like there's still some justice in the universe, that perhaps in this world of violence and debauchery, no evil deed goes unpunished. But there's a less instant version of karma relating to video game piracy. In this video, we'll be looking at the inventive, unexpected, and deliciously cruel ways that developers troll players who decide to steal their creations. Here are 9 savage ways game developers punished piracy. The Tolos Principle is a delightful puzzle game developed by Croteam, the Croatian developer also responsible for Serious Sam, in which you play an unarmed android solving conundrums in a serene, thoughtful world. And the world is so thoughtful that in fact it has an inventive in-game way of punishing anyone who decides not to pay for the experience. If the puzzles in the Tolos Principle don't defeat pirates, then the elevators will. Steal the game, and the elevators used to travel between the main facilities and the game's 3 hub areas will just, well, stop. You can't go up, you can't go down. Your only option is to quit. And the especially evil element of all this? Well, the trap only triggers a few hours into the game, at which point you've probably decided that you love the Tolos Principle and you've poured enough time into it to really want to finish it. But instead, you get trapped in an elevator forever. Hey, why don't you just go and buy it? The Sims 4 is proof that Maxis' life-devouring existem-up isn't going anywhere. It sold 5 million copies, topped all the formats charts, and was the best-selling PC game of 2014 and 2015. And that might just be because of the clever way the game deals with anyone who tries to get the game for free. Now, if I say pixelated in relation to The Sims, you'll probably start thinking about private parts. Sorry for putting that image in your head just then, sorry. But for anyone who pirates The Sims 4, that genital mosaic blur spreads like blocky mold, eventually covering the entire screen. Genital mosaic blur. 3 little words I never thought I'd hear myself say again. Where was I? Oh yes, when the game was released, those experiencing this would hop onto the EA forums and complain about the bug, and in doing so, reveal themselves to be naughty sim-stealing pirates. Blocked and reported. Am I right? Let's move on. Quick one next. Remedy Games, the developer responsible for Alan Wake and Quantum Break, have a clean, simple way of marking out players who pirate their games. Anyone who decides to steal either game finds their lead character slapped with an eye patch, complete with a tiny skull and crossbones. Now, while it's not quite as bad as breaking the game, you can almost feel the embarrassment, like a dog wearing a cone of shame. There are 2 minor problems with this one. Firstly, Metal Gear Solid's Big Boss and Yakuza's Goro Majima tell us that eye patches are really cool, so it doesn't seem like much for punishment. Secondly, players who paid for a legitimate copy but weren't logged into the Windows Store also got the same treatment, which is a whole different kind of tragic. When it was first released, Arkham Asylum gave us the definitive being Batman experience, allowing you to swoop, sneak, and suplex your way through a wonderfully detailed DC world. Except, you know, when you couldn't. Anyone who pirated Arkham Asylum found themselves grounded. Developers Rocksteady disabled Batman's ability to glide in stolen versions, thus closing off important areas of the game. This basically makes Arkham Asylum impossible, not least because there are some areas where you have to glide over pits of poison gas. And best of all, when naughty players who'd nicked the game took to the internet to complain, Rocksteady responded with a beatdown worthy of the Dark Knight himself. When one pirate complained about the bat flapping instead of flying, Rocksteady responded with this. It's not a bug in the game's code, it's a bug in your moral code. Oof, Batman himself would be proud. Czech developer Bohemia Interactive has used all manner of smart tricks to thwart theft since Operation Flashpoint in 2001, and 2009's ARMA 2 contained what might be the pinnacle of their anti-piracy methods. Like many of the best anti-piracy methods, this one fills players with a false sense of security. Maybe they'll get away with it, maybe it'll be alright. But it won't be alright. Firstly, the POV wobbles like the players had one too many shandies. The focus changes, causing an effect a bit like vertigo, and if you manage to play it without being sick, you'll soon discover that rounds will fly off in random directions when you fire your gun. Brilliant. And after all this, if you still continue to play, you'll turn into a seagull. Yes, that's right, an actual seagull. Best of all, the distributors released a free-to-play multiplayer version of ARMA 2 a few years later, further torturing players who decided to stick through all the vertigo, vomiting, and seagull transformation. That's what you get for being impatient. Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 4 expanded the series in loads of meaningful ways, and in some respects it felt like the franchise growing up. And famously, it was now old enough to drink. Have a few wine spritzers with Nico and he'll get sloshed, basically making the game temporarily unplayable. And that's also what happened if you pirated the game. Like all the best piracy trolling, everything's okay to start with, but when you finish the prologue, the camera starts to shake uncontrollably. And it doesn't stop. Even watching a video of it is enough to make you feel a bit sick, let alone the thought of playing it. But if somehow you managed to sit through all this without vomiting, you'd soon find that the vehicles didn't work. Cars automatically accelerate and start smoking, somehow managing to make an already unplayable game even worse. Of course, modders eventually worked out a fix, because they love a challenge. But this is a very Rockstar middle finger at the first wave of pirates. Our next entry from Dark Souls isn't necessarily a tweak to combat piracy, but a brutal way of toying with the game's earliest players. Certain retailers broke the Japanese release date, allowing people to play the game before launch. In response, From Software unleashed max-level Black Phantoms to invade the games of anyone playing before the official release. Try to imagine what it must have been like. You think you're getting an early advantage, playing an exciting game before anyone else. But what's actually happening is this. You're experiencing one of the hardest games ever made for the first time with no guides or walkthroughs, and you've got absolutely no idea what's going on. And then a phantom with 19,000 HP invades your game and bludgeons you to death. Truly, this is the most Dark Souls way of welcoming early adopters. Mirror's Edge is all about speed. The graceful jumps, the breakneck runs, the deft leaps between tall buildings. Imagine then trying to play it at the pace of an arthritic tortoise. Well, if you stole the game, you don't need to imagine, because that's exactly what happened to Faith in pirated versions. The usually fleet-footed hero gets slower and slower once she gets halfway through the tutorial. Once Mirror's Edge fails to verify, Faith's pace slows until she has the parkour skills of your grandma. And trying to make the jumps? Well, that ends exactly how you might imagine. But at least you can enjoy that first minute of gameplay before it verifies, right? Have fun! And finally, let's finish with the smartest, most meta way of punishing piracy on this list. Game Dev Tycoon, as you might guess from the name, is a sim all about setting up a game studio, managing resources, and making games. You can see where this is going, can't you? The game's developer Greenheart Games leaked a hacked version of the game just to see what happened. Of course, the naughty version was soon everywhere, and within just one day, 93% of players were using the illegal version. But there was a twist. In the cracked version, people start to pirate your game. Lots of people. And the problem gets worse as you progress from the 8 and 16-bit eras to modern times, where piracy is much more of a problem. And most crushingly of all, the better your games, the more people want to steal them. Just like real life. Eventually your profits will fall as your games get stolen, and the company you worked so hard to build will ultimately go bankrupt. And if you want to see the dictionary definition of irony, well, just look at the forum comments from players complaining about piracy. Players who, quite obviously, have stolen the game. Not quite instant karma then, but they do say revenge is a dish best served cold. And there you have it, 9 cunning ways developers ninja'd pirates. Let us know in the comments below if you can think of any examples we missed, like this video if it made you feel all warm and self-righteous, and subscribe to Logitech G for more weekly shows and features. Thanks for watching!